Greetings, everyone. Master Grogan here. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Well, welcome to another life-changing episode of Grogan's Bully Proof and Kickin' Life. Thank you so very much for tuning in and being with us today. What we've got going on today, another live stream, another spotlight live stream, and we got a phenomenal guest. And as I mentioned before, I know how valuable your time is, so I go out of my way to make sure I've got the best quality guests we can on the show. Why? Because time is the most valuable commodity in the world. And the fact that you're spending your time with me, I want to make sure that I give value to that time and leave you with something, a golden nugget, a gem, something you can take away and immediately apply to your life. Now, for first-time listeners, Bully Proof, what that's all about, it's about standing up, having that hope and self-confidence. You see that right at the top of the screen, to stand up to any bully you face, both real and in your mind. Just having that belief in yourself. And that kicking life is what we strive for. It's like instead of life kicking our butt, we're kicking life's butt, man. Yeah, life knocks us down, beats us hard enough. Let's reverse that trend and let's live a kicking life. And the biggest way to do that, and what we try and talk about on this show, is the mindset. Believe in yourself, surround yourself with the right group of people, putting the right data, the right input in your mind, sort of like planting a garden. If you want strawberries, you got to plant strawberry seeds. You plant onion seeds, you're getting onions. I mean, it's simple as that. Well, also, if we don't do anything with our mind, society is going to inundate our mind with weeds of negativity, which are going to suffocate anything we try and plant. So our listeners, you know this, ones that listen all the time, make sure you subscribe. Give us that 5-star review if we've earned it. Our new friends, subscribe. And on YouTube, smack that bell so you're notified every time a new video comes out. And those just listen to the podcast, and this is episode number 305, if you can believe that. Wow, 305. How'd that happen? Well, it happened 1, 2, 3, 4. Just consistently doing it, just like anything else. If weight loss, or if you're in martial arts, which we're one of our guests today is all about being in martial arts. And wait till you hear his accomplishments and accolades. You start off as a white belt, and then you take that first step, and then that second step. Well, it's the same thing with anything in life. Try and keep it real, try and keep it genuine, try and keep it transparent, but also on the level of saying, man, I did this. I'm a guy that barely graduated high school. You can do it as well if you put your mind, attitude, and effort to it. Good. Well, those who listen to the live stream, chime on in. Matter of fact, I better turn the chats on. I always forget to do that halfway through the show. There we go. And those who just listen to the podcast, I encourage you to listen to the live stream on Thursdays at 1 o'clock Eastern time, because then you can join in and ask questions of the guest. And then, of course, when it airs that following Monday for the spotlight on the podcast apps, and then you can re-listen to it again, and I promise you're going to pick up on something else. All right, well, enough of that intro stuff. I kept it down to under 3 minutes. Good job. All right, who's our guest today? Well, you see him on the screen if you're watching the live stream. If not, well, you're just going to have to wait and listen to all these amazing accolades. As I mentioned, this is Spotlight Show, episode number 305. And who I got today, just a whole list of amazing accomplishments. And that's why I think it's important for not only martial artists to listen to, but anybody out there that even if you're not struggling, but you just need that little boost in life, that's why we listen. All right, well, here we go. He's a 9th degree black belt, and I'll let him list all these styles in just a minute here. 9th degree black belt. He's got a 2nd stripe brown belt. He holds 5 different black belts in 5 different styles. He's instructor certification to Premier Martial Arts. He's competed in tournaments from 1981 through 1996 throughout Illinois, Missouri, and the Midwest. And you all listen all the time. I'm from the Midwest, from Southern Illinois. And the fact that we never connected until he moved to Florida, what the heck? But that's probably my own fault for not doing a better job of reaching out. But we've connected now, and sometimes maybe it wouldn't have been the right connection, but that was another draw, was we both moved from Illinois to Florida. Okay, so anyways, he's moving on with his accolades. He's been in over 200 tournaments, or placed in nearly 200 tournaments. First place 250 times, second place winning 7 grand championships. He's fought nationals twice, represented Team USA in Illinois in 1985, 86, and 87. And being ready for this, folks, the only American to win against the Greece team in 1987. He's fought full contact kickboxing, welterweight, and retired with a record of 2-0. In 2002, that's this year, he started his 40th year of teaching martial arts. Now, if you see him on the screen, you're probably saying, what, he started teaching when he was 2 years old? But that's the power of continuously working out, bettering yourself, and giving to others. It keeps you young, man. It keeps you young. And he turned what he started off teaching martial arts in a small fitness center in Illinois to now 3 academies, 2 in Illinois, 1 in Florida, which is just about to open. And we're going to definitely talk about that today. Who am I talking about? Well, once again, if you can see him on the screen, you see him. If not, I'm talking about Hanshi John Geyston. Hanshi, how we doing, sir?
How are you? Good. I'm great. Great.
Awesome sauce. Well, I do my best to cover all the accolades because nobody likes talking about themselves. I get that. But if I miss something, for crying out loud, please share and your ninth degree black belt and everything that you've done, just to boast on yourself just a little bit. And then we'll get into the humble side of family and what you're doing to make society a better place.
Yeah. Well, it's I started. I know this is about bully proof, and my mother put me in martial arts. I'm 59, so in the night and before the summer before my 10th birthday, she decided to put me in martial arts because I was being bullied for like 2 years straight. And in the sense that I even was going like sick to my stomach, didn't want to go to school, and the doctor had given me medicine. But I later found out in my years that all he did was put food coloring in water and make me think I was taking medicine to make me feel better. But she put me in that summer in 1972, and I just did it for that summer. It never hit with me. It was almost back then. The John Creases were more real than they are today. And I almost felt like I got bullied by an adult rather than the three kids that used to do it, right? So got back into it in 1975 again, did it for about 18 months. And then, I was always attracted to it for whatever reason. And then walking a hallway at Lincoln Land Community College up in Springfield, Illinois. And I saw these guys doing karate in the room. So but I was kind of quiet, reserved. I never said nothing. I passed it like 3 or 4 times, and a guy come out. I said, "Hey, what are you guys doing there? What style?" And that's where it all kicked off for me. A year and a half later, I was asked if I wanted to take over that club for my instructor, along with another guy. And at that time, they moved us into a hallway right outside the gymnasium. So I was like, sure. And I always talk. Everybody wants to say, "Oh man, you've done so much," and I'm like, yeah, I negotiated. My instructor said, if you teach and run this program, I'll give you a membership in the main school, which was $52.50 a month. But going to college and delivering pizzas at night in a red jumpsuit, I was like, I'm in. So I ended up working 15 hours a week for $52.50 a month. But it opened up the whole thing. This was not in my vision. It was not on the scope of anything I thought I'd end up doing, and it ended up being my career. So it's kind of like just took off. But there was something about it, even when I didn't like it at 9 and I really didn't care for it, later at 15, and it was still something always attracted me back to it. So yeah, so it's been a while. So.
Yes, well, that's a fantastic journey, and those listening, and I always encourage, because we have listeners, and I'm blessed. Not only martial artists, but moms, dads, parents, teenagers, anybody that wants hopefully a kick in life and that little extra confidence to overcome whatever fears they're facing. So you listen to Hanshi John here. At martial arts, you went in there because most people were being bullied. I mean, that's when I started. I started right around 9, 10 years old. My dream was to always be a pro hockey player. And I was actually being bullied in the locker room in hockey. And I was never standing up for myself. And that was, I don't know. And of course, I have Chuck Norris, Bruce Lee. The style I took for 40 something years and still is kind of my primary style is Tung Sido Mudokwan. And that's what Chuck Norris specialized in, and one of the first Americans to get his black belt in. But that was kind of the same dream, and I took that for a number of years. And then in high school, I thought I was going to become a pro hockey player, so I took time off of training with an actual instructor and pursued that. Didn't work out, but then I got back into martial arts, and it was all about the fear of, man, I'm not a very big person, of really, could I defend myself if I really had to? And the answer was like, I don't know, because my first instructor, he focused a lot on kicking and things, which is great, but I wanted to do practical hand-to-hand self-defense. And I'm blessed. My instructor that I've had now for, goodness gracious, since '89, I guess, that's his primary focus. So that's a blessing. And then, like you, I've dabbled in a multitude of different styles just to round things out. I'm a big believer in what I call the Bruce Lee philosophy, and that is you take it all in, everything. You disregard which doesn't align with your core values, or doesn't fit your mold, or isn't just a good fit for you. But then the thing that I think often people forget, hit the microphone again, is to add your special touch, your essence. I like the Kung Fu Panda, the special sauce or the special flavor, to make it your own. And obviously that's what you've done to build your academies up, to teach in a multitude of styles. But your primary focus is more than just, obviously, there's some tournament academies, there's some that are belt factories, and there's some that focus only on self-protection. But you've kind of molded yours a little differently there to align with your core values, and obviously the success speaks for itself. The two in Illinois, and now you're opening another one in Florida. So could you touch a little bit on that? Basically, what your primary focus is, why that's your primary focus, and then of course, big shout out for the new academy opening up in Florida.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's interesting is I just did a rebrand of the academy, and we've been, Shudokan was when, the style that when I went back to Lincoln Land was where I got my black belt in 1985. And around 1989, I started attending just other things. People always say, "Oh, you were so ahead of the curve." I go, "No, I just had ADD and wanted to try other stuff." And
so listeners, are you picking up a trend here with almost every one of our guests? I often share that I used to think ADD, ADHD, all the D's that I specialize in were a curse, but no, it's just how you apply your God-given talent, which may not think it's a talent, but it is, in order to do what others aren't willing to do. So sorry about that. I just wanted
to. I think when I listen to it, it's like we all have a very similar story, even though we all have our own story. And it's there was things that I noticed in the martial arts, I should say, that this style did this style was linear. And I remember one of the things with me wanting to do the Filipino martial arts is there was one of our black belts who worked security in the evenings at nightclubs. He got stabbed, not severely bad, but he got cut. And I'm thinking to myself, that down block thing that we're learning on the knife thing probably isn't real. And he's better than I am because I'm only this rank at this time. And like, what style would do that? And then someone told me, so I went up and started attending seminars. Like, I want to know the answer to that problem because I want to be well-rounded. And then it's just like everything else. Just so, I always like getting out there and doing different things and studying different stuff. And but that it was Shudokan, then to Goju Shorei, the black belt, and then that ended me up in the BKF Kimpo with Stephen Sanders and Donnie Williams, who were in Enter the Dragon with Bruce Lee when Jim Kelly's character walks in before he gets on the boat. Those were the instructors that I did my Kimpo certification through and lessons and association. And I just ran into Stephen Saunders Muhammad now in Houston at an event back last May. And hadn't seen him in forever. And he was gracious enough to act like he remembered me, but I'm not sure if he did or not. But we talked a little bit and multiple times over that weekend. So that was always interesting to me. And then my instructor, Professor Larry Hilton, he kind of retired 12 years ago due to health reasons. And 3 years ago, right before COVID, he come to me and he says, "Hey, I want to ask you a question. I want you to say yes." And I said, "Well, sir, I found in my life when I've said yes without knowing, sometimes it's led to bad things. So I promise you I will do my best to give you the answer you're looking for. Ask me the question first." And he kind of like wanted me to take over the system. He had hoped that his son was going to do it. His son had a medical career that was taking off. So, and I didn't want to. I said, there's a lot of other guys that are older than me, more seasoned, been with you longer. I'm just busy and I don't feel like I can do that. I think so-and-so would be better. Have you talked to him? He's like, "No, my son and I think you're the best." And I'm like, "Well, I can't this compliment. Why don't you talk to those other guys and get back with me?" And then he finally just said, and this is the part that's, because we are, especially in the martial arts, and I think in life, we are where we are because somebody lifted us up and brought us there. And when he said to me, "I want you just to say yes. All my 55, 60 years in the martial arts is going to die when I die. With you, it has life. Do it for me." And I'm like, "All right, Professor, I'll do it." And and then all that, the rank, and then he promoted me up and all that stuff at that time, which I still didn't want. I just want to get on the mats and train. So, but yeah, so, that's kind of the background in the martial arts and kind of where we got in a very short track. But I just did, as I was saying, I did a rebrand because it was interesting when I went full time. I taught part time 1982 to 1996, and in '96 I made the jump. I just went for it. I actually walked away from $110,000 job, annual job. I walked away from as a labor negotiator, and they gave me a $20,000 raise to stay. And I still left. And I go, you know what? It's just not what I wanted to do. I want to pursue this. I remember I made $5,000 my first year running my school. And I went full time because I kept thinking, well, if I do this and this, it'll pay for my salary. And that's when I realized I didn't know anything about running an operation. But the thing that people would come back is, what are you teaching? You got 5 different black belts. What style? And I think more in the 80s, and you would probably agree, 80s, 90s, more people, everybody wanted to label it. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to call it John Geyston's martial arts, because it's literally just things I've done. And I'm I think this way of striking is better than this way. And I like this variation of getting out of the headlocks easier than this way. And that was kind of the thing. And it's been called that. And last year, knowing that this was coming, I had the plan was to be here in 3 to 4 years. And family was really the decision why we just made it. We went forward in July, and we made a decision in July, and we had signed a lease and moved in September. So it was a very fast, let's do it. But I spent a lot of the last 3 or 4 years training my staff to have a career and have the opportunity that when I started in 1996, I had people calling me and telling me, don't do it. Nobody. Martial arts isn't meant to be a career. You're gonna lose. You're gonna regret. You're gonna have financial problems. And it was real easy to start believing they might have been right that first 12 months when I only got $5,000. But I'm like, no, there has to be a way. And I don't know, sir, about you, but I didn't know anybody in around 95, 96 that was making a living doing martial arts personally that I knew. I heard names, but I didn't know if those stories were true either. So, I went for it, and, again, we just labeled that. But I think there's, with my team, I'm like, I want people to have a career, because it's an amazing career. We get to do what we're passionate about. We get to do it every day. We get to stay healthy. We get to impact people's lives, empowering people's lives. And I think anybody that teaches has had that. Somebody did that for them. And I wanted to make sure we had careers and everything for that. So we actually changed it to Empowered Martial Arts, and I emphasized the we. So in the logo, weak is blue in the empowering. And I said, because it went from me, my style, what I do, to the team now doing it. So it's a we thing, not a me thing. And so we made that move down here in Florida. And we've actually, we're in our 3rd week of being open now here in Tampa. But it's almost like I'm back to where I was 40 years ago, because I opened up a 2nd location, and I've done satellite programs up there. And, I go in and I help everybody get started, and then I'm gone. Well, here I'm teaching every night, just like I did 40 years ago, because I got to create a whole new team down here, because nobody moved with me. So it's almost a full circle. But that's kind of how we, the background a little bit and how we got to Tampa. So.
Wow, that's fantastic. And so much I've taken notes to kind of unpack there. And we're getting friends jumping up on the screen. Make sure you can jump on, say hello, and ask your questions. But I always like, I'll get sometimes messages afterwards and say, yeah, I really liked it, but I how do I connect if I'm not a martial artist? Well, folks, my thing is, you can learn something if you're willing to be humble enough from anybody, and then and take that nugget, whatever that may be, and transpose that into your life. Kind of like what we're doing with the martial arts here, creating your own thing with the knowledge you've earned. And a couple of the notes here, I want to talk about somebody had to lift you up in order to get you where you're at. Then basically that means somebody had to inject that belief into you that was always there, but maybe you didn't have in yourself. Right. And they did that for you. So now what are you doing in turn? You're sharing that gift and lifting other people up to help pass that on. And as and folks listening, you hear me say this every single show, Zig Ziglar quote, How do you get everything you want in life? By simply helping enough other people get what they want. And that's all about remembering who helped you when you got, how you got there, and then passing that back on. The gift of giving, it comes back tenfold. And so run with that in whatever capacity that is going to help you in your life, whatever that may be. And then another big thing, risk. You know, you had a calling, you had a passion, something in your heart, something in your mind was saying, man, this job is good, but boy, the world needs you to utilize your God-given talent to make a profound impact in the world. Now, that doesn't mean that you have the calling that's all going to be sunshine and rainbows. You know, as Rocky says, the world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a mean, nasty place, right? Beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. And then after that first year of only bringing in about $5,000, you're probably thinking, what in the world did I do here? And you're going to question yourself. But that's the reason, and folks listen, and that's the reason so few actually make it to that level of success, living in their zone of genius, is because when adversity comes, and it will, we back off and say, oh, you know what? Now, I'm not saying you run blinded and stuff. I've done that. I've dove in and found out it's 2 inches of water instead of 20 foot. I've been bankrupt twice, house foreclosure, cars repossessed. Because what you mentioned there, sir, I had no idea how to run the business side. Now, I always had the energy, always had the passion, and I always felt really good about what I was teaching, the technique, which was great. But if you're going to run a business, you got to treat it like a business, or you're going to be out of business, and then you're no good for anybody.
Right.
And all it was for a number of years was a money losing hobby. Now, I was blessed. My wife, who's been with me through thick and thin, she was a nurse, and she was my sugar mama who would support all my failures and help, finance the failing business. But no, you mentioned that back in the 90s and even the 2000s, the old mindset was, especially back, kind of talk about you growing up, was you could not have a successful business and quality students at the same time. If you had more than, well, some of them more than 20 students, then you were a sellout because you couldn't be a quality instructor to make sure that they were their very, very best. And that was playing in my mind. I was with the Federation 20 something years, and I believe that tried and true. And then I started getting out. And that's what I talk about mindset so much, because we are, another Zig quote, we are what we are and where we are by what we put in our mind. You can change what we are and where we are by changing what goes into our mind. And that was a major shift and a major change. And it's like you, I went out on a limb here. I left the organization I was with, which, it was a lot of crying, a lot of tears. But also I quit my job as a PE teacher. Now, I was only making about 38, 40 grand a year as a PE teacher. Now I had my sugar mama, my wife, supplying all the extra income. But that was a big jump. And everybody like, are you out of your mind? What are you doing? And that's what he did. We're blessed to be able to build the business up. And then as you did, we moved to Florida here. And that was another thing, is like, my gosh, 25 years you've been in this community. We won Business of the Year, blessed on that, given hundreds of speeches in the school districts. And it's kind of, I say this with utmost humility, a local celebrity. It was cool. Everywhere I went, people were wearing my shirts, and people knew me in restaurants, buying dinner for me, and my kids were popular. And then I'm like up and moving to Florida. It's like, have you lost your mind? Well, I knew there was more to give. And I've got a kid that's been with me 16 years who was chomping at the bit. He wanted more responsibilities, and I was kind of clogging the pipe. So I'm like, you know what? We're moving. I'm going to focus on the Bully Proof and Kickin' Life brand, my book, speeches, podcasts, blogs, everything else, and get this message out to a bigger audience. And of course, it gives me an opportunity to meet people like you, to listen and talk to you, to follow you a little bit more, and see what you're doing. And you're kind of doing the same thing, almost starting all over again. It's kind of where we're starting with a brand here. But as Jim Rohn always says, you can't take away the knowledge. So even if you're starting over, even if you failed at something, you're not starting from the ground. You're starting with the wisdom you learned from the past. And that's so people, once again, listening, think about that. Maybe if you're talking about making a change, a big risk, well, yeah, but you've got more experience now than you had before. Take in what Hanshi's talking about here, the knowledge, the wisdom, and apply that to any area of your life. Maybe it's weight loss, maybe it's fitness, maybe it's martial arts, maybe it's owning your own business, maybe it's raising your kids. You can apply this to anything, and that's the essence of the Bully Proof and Kickin' Life brand.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's and it may have been, I took someone's post the other day, said it's a great one, I got to share it. And it may have been yours. And it's like, if you're failing, you're not starting from scratch like you did the first time, and I don't know if that was you or not, but
I probably took it from somebody else too.
yeah, so I follow that and I see that stuff and I grab it. But that's exactly what our industry is. And you talked about, you touched on right in the beginning of this about someone instilled or lit a fire or a candle or inspiration or something to make me believe in myself, because I didn't believe in myself. I had no clue. My uncle always joked. He said, I never heard a word out of you till you were 16. You haven't shut up since. And but I was just a quiet dude. And I mean, even at that day at Lincoln Land, when I seen those people in the karate gis, I walked by them for probably 2-3 weeks before I said something, because it wasn't me to walk in and say, "Hey man, what are you guys doing? This is pretty cool." It was just like, I just kind of stood back. But when my instructor did his official retirement dinner, we did this big promotion thing. It was a year before COVID, actually. It was the March prior to that. And I did it on my mother's birthday. She had passed in 2009. I said, if we do it, I'd like to do it on my mom's birthday, because she's the one that got me started. And there was a quote, and I may butcher this, and I've been trying to think of it ever since you said it. And Hanshi Dave Kovar was the one that planted this quote in my head 4 or 5 years ago. And it was, "I am not who I think I am. I am not who you think I am. I am who I think you think I am." And I used that, and I went through all the different, when I reflected before that dinner, I went back and just like, what was the pivot points for me being this, from shy kid to punk teenager who was still shy, but being a punk because he was shy, that somebody came up to him and said, "Listen, you're really good at helping people with martial arts and karate. Would you take over this program?" I don't know if I was or not, but he made me think I was, because what he thought of me. Or he seen me as really cheap help. But I like to take the first one. And, if I look back, there's always been someone there that planted that seed, that they saw more in me than I saw myself. And I had this talk with I got an 11-year-old that size-wise we have him doing the teen class that starts at 13, but he's the one that gets down on himself. And I said, no, stop for a minute. You're good at this and you're good at that. You're just challenged with this. It doesn't mean you're bad at it. I don't want to hear you say it anymore. And he kind of crawled over to position. I got to stand up. I said, because your physiology is going to create your emotional state. And I said, right now, when you're crawling, you're telling me you're defeated, that you can't do this move and you're just going to walk over to the next spot. Stand up, walk over there, smile. And, I had that talk with him 3 or 4 times last night. And when he was stepping on the floor, I put my arm around him and go, "I want you to know I believe in you, and I've been doing this for 40 years. You can do this, but you're not going to do it with that stinking thinking that you have that you're not doing." I said, "Makes sense?" I said, "So high five me, give me a hug, and get back here tomorrow and quit talking negative about yourself." So hopefully that helps him. I joked with him. I said, "You got more potential in you than you can. If you ever do something great and become a multi-billionaire, just remember me and throw me a $500,000 for the ball."
Throw me a ball.
But it's that's what it's done. I know, sir, that from your background and following you, it's somebody lit that. Somebody made us believe we were something that they saw potential in us, or they made us believe we had more in us than we thought. And I think that's the biggest thing. I don't care what it is. You can be in medical. I get students that write me and tell me, "Hey, I got through med school, or I got through law school, or I just got through a challenging marriage from what you used to teach me as a teenager." And that hits you, right? That's what it's about.
Yes. Well, that's the legacy, and you don't realize what you're doing. I was at a growth mindset meeting earlier this week, and somebody asked, what is your purpose?" And I said, "Well, I want to plant seeds in mental gardens, plant a tree that I'll never sit under for shade." And it's basically leaving a legacy, because you're doing things, empowering others in the way that someone empowered you. No one gets anywhere without some assistance, without some help. The bad thing is oftentimes, and Zig Ziglar again once said, we let ourselves get so low that we start grabbing for straws or grabbing for anything, and oftentimes we grab the wrong doggone one.
Yes.
Which can't happen out there. So we encourage you not to get that low, but also know that the world needs, and I'm talking to our listeners here, the world needs you. Everyone's a hero to someone. And a little plug for my book coming out, Becoming Bully Proof. That's the whole message of the book. It's me as a 12-year-old meeting me as Master Grogan 40 years later. We go on a journey together, and the older me is teaching the younger me everything I wish I would have known. But the biggest thing is, the older me is not the hero. The older me is helping the younger me believe in myself to become that hero, so then I can in turn help someone else, because that's, as you said, sir, that's what someone did for you. And I love the name of your new academy, Empowered. I mean, empowering is a big word. It's trying to figure out your, I don't say slogan, but your mission statement. It was helping others, guiding others, but empowering, man. And empowering, what I think empowering is you help somebody or you inspire somebody. Well, as Zig says, motivation doesn't last. Well, neither is bathing. We encourage it daily to stay. But if you're empowered, man, now that flame is lit and it's going. Now you take it from there and utilize that knowledge to become, once again, your own hero. And your friends, the kids you're talking about who went through medical school and lawyers and all the other amazing accolades and successes, you weren't there with them physically, but you had planted a seed in their mind at a young age that stayed with them. And folks, I cannot stress this point enough. Listening, no matter where you're at in your stage of life, someone's looking up to you. Someone needs what you have to empower them with that belief, that hope, that confidence, and the little things. How and part of our ABCs to become bully proof. The B is believe in yourself by putting on your bullyproof armor. And your bullyproof armor is all about, once again, you either carry yourself like a victim or a victor. You carry yourself like you're being bullied or you're a hero, one or the other. Now, it may not be easy. Nothing in life is easy, but it's how you carry yourself. And that's a drill I'm sure you do with kids too, is, I just have them put their shoulders down and slunch their back. And I'm like, how does that feel? I'm like, I said, it's defeated. It looks defeated. Go ahead and look in the mirror. It's like, oh, nice. Now roll those shoulders back, get that head up, use your tiger's eyes and your lion's voice. Stop right there. And I mean it. No. I said, that is empowering. Now, on the inside, you may be peeing your pants, but the outside, you're projecting strength. And of course, what you tell yourself, and oftentimes we are our own worst bully. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. And I know we talked off the air about, maybe somebody in third grade told us we were a loser or stupid or dumb or we couldn't read or, you're never going to amount to anything. Well, those seeds are planted, man. And for whatever reason, they're the hardest ones to get out. And anytime we're in doubt, that's where we go to. That's what our mind does to us.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting that the positive seeds are harder to get to grow than the negative ones that somebody else planted in there.
Yep. You tend to believe somebody who doesn't know us, their opinion far more than what we believe about ourselves that we do know. And why is that? Well, I don't know if there's really an answer to that, except for lack of self-confidence and belief in ourselves.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So.
Well, good stuff, man. Well, those just jumping on here, please, if you're watching the live stream, put your questions in. And those who listen to the podcast, you're listening to it on a podcast app and you're just hearing it. But if you like to see what the guests look like and you like to chime in and ask questions and be a part of the show, and we got a number of friends on the show, so don't be afraid to ask questions. You can double dip. And I always encourage that. You hear me say this all the time. I encourage you, if you find a book you like or a podcast you like or a live stream you like, watch or listen to it multiple times, because you're always going to pick up on something you missed the first or second time. It's almost like it's a brand new show. But the reason for that is, if you're listening to something a second or third time, you're going to be at a different level. Your mindset's going to be a little bit different. So you're going to be able to absorb something maybe you weren't able to absorb before. All right, let's get into the family here, because off the air we talked about having a supportive wife, which helps balance you out. I know my wife balances me out. Goodness gracious. She tells me the things I don't want to hear, but I need to hear. And then I've got 3 kids, which are about the same age as your kids. I got a 21-year-old son, an 18-year-old daughter, and a 13-year-old son. And you said you've got 3 kids about the same age there.
Yeah. And that was, mine are 19 and in college. And then the 17-year-old just graduated school early, doing the online thing down here. Because we just moved in, as I was sharing with you, and you were so kind to ask me, hey, do you want to do it next week or another time? Because I know you're busy. I'm like, no, it'd be good to stop to do this. So, but we came down and we did a temporary rental because we didn't know. I wanted to live by where the school was going to be, and I had no clue where school was going to end up. So, but I knew I didn't want to be driving 40, 45 minutes in traffic down here. So I'm literally I think I'm 2.1 miles from the school, and it's 4 to 5 minutes for me to get there. So it's a straight shot. But it's I'll turn that up a little bit. Hopefully the dog.
Oh, we hear it. No big deal. I got the dog as well.
I think
And
some
Matt or Mark, we'll get right with your question in just a second here, Mark. So hang tight. Mark's had a question about why we moved to Florida. But go ahead, sir.
Okay. But yeah, so it's, my daughter's 17 and then I got a 12-year-old. So my daughter's actually been up in Illinois for the month. She went up there. And in the school that she went to, they were kind enough to let her, she's going to go to the dance as well with her friends. But she's been up there. And I go, why would you go up there now when it's snowing? And that, and she was the one that wanted to move to Florida. Right. So, but yeah, so it's that, and I went through a divorce, and I thought kids were out of the picture for me, so I didn't have my first child till I was 40, and I think it made me better for sure. It's because I think I was once everything started clicking for me and that confidence, I became very career track focused, not in career as in the sense that money, but everything was, everything was falling in place, and the harder I worked, the luckier I got. And
Amazing how that happens. Or folks, you
yeah,
listen to that. Yeah. The harder you work, the luckier you get.
yeah, and I still work. I know there's like people that, and I know there's consultants in our industry that try to, say that, but this is what I love to do. I love to do what I do. I get up, and for me, myself, I try to train, and it's a little bit different because I don't have the same training partners. But in Illinois, for the last 10 years, I'm at the academy training, sparring, and doing stuff. For me, it's my personal training time every morning. I do that 4 to 5 mornings a week. And, but I love it. I'm not, I still love what I'm doing, and I put the hours in, and it's just because I still love it. So I think for me, having a kid at 40 was a lot better, because I probably would not have been near the father at 24 that I was at 40. So
It's a magic wisdom, isn't it? And folks, you look at Hanshi here, and he's 59 years old, and you're thinking, how in the world? Well, he just told you, commitment to physical fitness, physical training, and then, of course, nutrition factors in there, and all the other little things. The journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. Well, in order to improve your life, it's one day at a time, but you got to decide, is this the day I'm going to do it? No, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll wait till New Year's. I'll wait till next year. No, we don't know how long we got on this planet, but you got to start it. And the same thing with the podcast and the video blogs, the live streams, and everything else I get asked literally on a daily basis. It starts with one. It starts with one. So take that one step. You got to do it. And I don't want to forget about Mark. He had asked, he said, I don't know if you already covered it, but what made you and he's probably talking to both of us, what made us move to Florida? So I'm going to let you fire away first, sir.
With me, it was the plan to get down here. I came down here, and actually, when I went through my divorce, 21, 22 years ago, I sold my school up, and then kept it as like a franchise license program. But I moved down here then, and with who is not my wife now, right? And we met, and she moved down here with me, and our son we had here. So our plan was always to get back to Florida. My mother got ill, and I had our first son at 40, as I said, Jet, and we moved back because I wanted him to know his grandparents. And the family thing was, to put a little bit of light on there, was my father was killed in a car accident when I was 4. So it's like, for me, I never had that father-son relationship. And in the martial arts, I found that. I found a mentor too, per se, that kind of, and so when all that's going down, it was very easy for me to make that conscious decision to go back, because I didn't want him to be denied having family and understanding family. He had a grandma. And so, that was our original reason to get back to. So we always knew we were going to go back down here. He had went to college. My 17-year-old had swore she was always going to take over the family business, the Martial Arts Academy. And I always joke with my kids, because they're all, in the beginning, it was, JG. And they're all first names start with a J. So I'm like, I don't know which one of you are taking it over, but the initials and the website's already there. So she always said she was going to take it over, and it was
Well
interesting.
thought out, sir. Well thought out.
And she came to me, and it was interesting. It's that night I had taught. I'd come home, and I was eating dinner, and then I was actually just doing some follow-up work and preparing the staff because I had a big instructor training day the following day. So just reviewing the notes and everything. And she come home, and she had asked for some time off during the summer, not to have, because she wanted to hang out with her friends. Because she's always teaching. She's been teaching since she was 14. And I said, of course you can. You don't have to work every night, blah, 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 blah. And anyway, she goes to her room and she texts me about 5 minutes later. She goes, I think I want to go to college. I said, that's a good thing. What do you want to do? She goes, well, I don't know. I said, well, business. And we kind of went on this conversation. And then she goes, I don't think I want to run the academy. And I said, it's okay. And she goes, you're not mad? And I go, no. I said, you want to come out and talk to me about it? She goes, no, I'd rather just text. So here she is down the hallway texting me this.
Who can relate to that, folks?
So, and I go, Jaden, I said, you made that promise when you were 7. Here's the one thing. I want you to be happy. Find what makes you happy. And if you can figure out how to make a career out of making you happy and it can benefit other people, it's golden. So I said, that's what I want you to do. I just want you to be happy. So I said, it's okay. So over that period of time, she had picked out a college and she picked it out down here. And we started looking at it, and I looked at my wife and I said, I want to show you something. You know, if we have a 12-month residency, our son's $49,000 a year at SIU Carbondale. And I go, if we have a 12-month residency, her college is $19,000. Between that and what our accountant told us we could save if we resided in Florida compared to Illinois, I have 100,000 reasons why we should go now. And, so some of it was finances, but a lot of it was she wanted to move down. She wanted to go to college here.
What college is it, sir?
We just expedite. I'm sorry.
What college is it?
Florida Gulf, but I don't even know if she's going to do that now. The one it's Fort Myers, right? I think that's what it's called. Okay.
Yeah, my daughter's talking about the University of South Florida.
Okay.
Is where, and it was kind of a reason as well. But
yeah, and so again, we're running parallel, right?
Well, in so many ways, because my whole goal was my kids. I was going to build them something that they would have an opportunity to take over the academy. And I'll tell you, everybody worked there at the academy, teaching. My son took all the program director courses from Hanshi Kovar, who's been a mentor for years, and learning. And of course, he's also what propelled our business to a different level of just a different mindset. How to I can't give him enough praise and thanks to the people he's introduced me to. Sure. To run it as a business and not a money losing hobby, but still keep the quality of your students. And actually, I feel our quality is better than it's ever been because now we focus on what we do and only what we do. And we're what we call a life skills, bully proof, and self-defense academy. And that is the biggest thing: the life skills and the character development. Believing in yourself, being respectful, manners, discipline, respect. But then the practical self-defense for any combative situation. And you do everything you can to avoid it. So all our self-defense is hands open. Yeah, we spar, and it's fun. I mean, I think you got to do that in order to learn how to throw a punch and a kick and defend. But our self-defense strategies are all open hands on open hand defenses, trying to defuse the situation. But it was a sense of comfortability for me because I always knew where they were. But it was really kind of tearing our family apart because they wanted to move on, especially my daughter, and it was hurting. And then the COVID, obviously, that was horrible for everybody. But we learned a new way. But that was also the kick in the butt we needed because, Illinois, it's got its problems. It really, really does. I mean, the harder I work to see, the more money I'm paying, and it's a very corrupt state. I've spoken openly about this. And if you haven't lived there, then you know what I'm talking. Then move there if you want to. But Florida is more open, more freedom, and then of course zero state income tax and the possibilities down here. And I've always wanted a palm tree in my yard ever since I was a kid. I can't have that in Illinois.
We're so parallel there too. The house we moved in, I'm like, there's no palm tree. I'm buying a palm tree because I want a palm tree in the house. So,
well, we were blessed. We had one in the front. Oh, I'm sorry. We had two on the side, and we moved into it, which was weird for me. I grew up on a farm, and then our last house, we actually had 3 acres in Illinois. Which here's another thing, folks. Mark that has asked. My house payment. We built a brand new house here, and my house payment went up $200 a month, considering the almost $9,000 I was paying in property tax in Illinois. My property tax here is 3,400. It's about the same size house too. Now we do have neighbors, which I didn't have before, but it's a brand new house in Florida. We're 30 minutes from the beach, which is fantastic. And but we had 3 palm trees, and now we've got 8. We've got 4 in the back, and we added another one in the front. My wife's like, "Are you out of your mind?" I'm like, "No, but it looks so great."
No, we're equal there too. It's the palm trees. I'm like, I'm finding a place to put a palm tree, even if I have to take another tree out.
I'll give you the number of my guy. It might be a little bit of a drive up to Tampa, but I'm sure he would make the drive. He's fantastic. His name's well, we call him George. I think it's Jorge, but he works for a nursery down here. And my gosh, he's very good. He'll bring the trees out, dig the hole, put them in, do all the stuff, reroute your sprinkler system. And I'm like, oh, that's what I want, because
Yeah.
I don't even cut my own grass anymore. And I know it sounds terrible, those listening, but I told my wife, I said, look, we get down here, I'm going to focus on the business, focus on going to the beach and spend time with the kids. Now, I'd love to lie to everybody and say that I do that consistently, but I'm saying that on the air now. So it's a kick in the butt for me to remember, look, what was the reason you moved down here? Come on now. But now I've got somebody that takes care of the grass, and neighbors like, you don't even cut your own grass. I said, no, I didn't. I've been cutting acres of grass for years. I didn't even bring a lawnmower. So I had to hire somebody, but I've got a guy who does it. It's $85 a month, and he comes every week. He weed eats, he edges, he cuts the grass, and then does the blower. I mean, come on. And
Yeah.
he's got 6 kids, so I really feel good about helping him out with that. And
Right.
it's something I don't have to do.
Yeah, no, it's good. You know, it's one thing that you touched on, and like when I think about this for my own family, there's more opportunities for them in career wise and resources in Florida than there is in Central Illinois. And again, it's not ripping on Central Illinois in any means, shape, or form. You know, I agree with you. We've got what now? We have the Speaker of the House going to prison. We have 3 governors that went to prison. You know, so you know, it is what it is. When we say it's corrupt, yeah,
It's just the reality of things. And
no, it is.
but you give me goosebumps again, sir, because that was exactly what my wife said. Look, there's not a lot. We want to create opportunity for our
Yeah.
kids outside the business. And my daughter was dead set, and she did all her research. We're a Christian family here, and USF, University of South Florida, was what she wanted. And like you said, without a 12-month residency, and that's 12 months from the day we bought the house, which was the end of July, because she's still doing online virtual classes. She decided now she's going to get her associate's degree at a place back home. Well, I'm sorry, I got to keep reminding myself this is home now, a place back up north, and then carry that over. But that will be right at the 12-month time, and because apparently a lot of people come down here and rent houses, and but yeah, the out-of-state tuition is crazy. But the in-state, it's oh my gosh, that's more reasonable than Southern Illinois University, and that's where my wife
Yes.
and I went, Edwardsville.
Yeah. So it's the same. You did SIUE.
Yeah, and my wife was she had hard classes. She was a nurse, and I had it took me 10 years to get a 2-year degree, and I figured that one out, and then 2 years to get a 4-year degree. Really figure that out. But my degree's in kinesiology, the study of human movement, which fit right in with what I was doing with the martial arts, being a personal trainer, teaching aerobics for 12 years, and then PE. I was nothing but a big kid anyway. You know, wanted to be a pro hockey player, and I love baseball and football and golf and all that. So I taught PE for 11 years while trying to get the business going. And but yeah, that's where we went. And she had just extremely hard classes. Now I had some anatomy and physiology. But to me, if I learn how the body works, that's a joint locker. That's able to help heal somebody. So I absolutely loved it. But of course, the other classes I had a swimming class, I had a golf and tennis class, had a badminton class, an ultimate frisbee class, and I would come home saying I'd play in all these. And you learn how to teach the skills, but it's college people, or guys and girls, just playing sports. It was fantastic. And she goes, "Oh my gosh, well, I had to learn about volumes and how much to give somebody so you don't kill them with medication. And here you're playing all day." I'm like, "Oh, that's great."
It is. It is. That's awesome.
So, Mark, hope that answered your question. Thank you, buddy, for asking the question. And we've got and a number of people watching. Thank you. Please don't be afraid. Jump on in here and ask a question. And I promise nobody's going to beat you up, or we're going to do our best to answer that question. But if it, it's a good time right now to say, hey, if you like what you hear, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Smack that bell so you're notified, and then listen on the podcast. Subscribe, and if we've earned the 5-star review, please give that to us, because what that does, that boosts us a little bit higher in the search results so people can find this. And collectively I talk about And I can do a lot. Hanshi can do a lot. You can do a lot. Our mentors can do a lot. But man, if collectively, like the power of a fist, working together in unity, it's more than just throwing a pebble in the pond. Now we're throwing a massive boulder in the pond and we're flooding the bank to make society a happier, healthier, and safer place to live. Not only for us right now, but for our kids and their families and the generations after them. And I'm sure, Hanshi, you're the same. Well, I'll say this, and you're not going to agree to anything till you hear it, which that's wisdom. But somebody recently had said, and I've heard it before, man, why do you work so hard with kids? And I said, well, there's several reasons. One, I'm nothing but a big kid myself, so I can relate, and I want to help them so they don't have the same struggles that I had. And I said, and the second reason, I'm just a flat out selfish guy. And they're like, you're a selfish guy? What do you mean by that? I said, I'm selfish because when I get older, these are the kids that are going to be taking care of me. And I'm a little worried right now. So I want that to be better. So
Yeah.
I'm doing it so I have a better future. How do you like that? Is that selfish? So
No,
if
no,
you don't want to do it for anybody else, do it for yourself.
I love it. I love that. You know, it's when I was writing, I wrote something that I can't remember, and it just that when someone said it just came out, and I don't, you know, again, we've been around so many mentors and leaders. Who knows if I heard it from somebody else, but one day this just came out, and someone said, "What are you?" The same thing, your purpose, and I said, "Well, empowering lives. You know, every day we want to empower someone's life, and you know, the 1 inch or the 1% improvement, right?" In everything that they do. And I said, but you know what? Reality is, I want to be the person I needed when I was growing up that I didn't have. And it wasn't out there for me. It wasn't out there in the mentors. And, you know, I went to speak at Robin and Fred De Palma's event last May.
Awesome.
And I talked about this floor structure. One of my segments, I did intros and then taught instructors, and it was amazing. There's 50 people in there that are teaching at their academies in some capacity or coming up, and the age in there was like 19 to 23. And I'm thinking to myself, here I was in my 30s trying to figure out how to start a school full time, and the opportunities again in our industry because of great mentors on all the levels, you know, is it's so much more than what it ever was when you and I were coming up, you know. And as we've said, it's not only being good at martial arts, it's being good at business, but there is a how to teach and how to communicate martial arts and how to logically and cohesively create a format that carries them from white belt to black belt in mind, body, and the martial arts is. You know, there's so much elements to this industry, and you know, there wasn't a whole lot of. There was more John Creases back then than there was you know, the Hanshi Kovars and the Fred De Palmas and gentlemen like yourself who are inspiring people to say, hey, here's the tools to do that. And that's so being that person for them that wasn't there when we were coming up, especially as a kid. You know, if I think about it, yeah, martial arts found me, but it didn't find me really till I was 19. So for 19 years of my life, I probably didn't believe in myself. And, you know, what could have been different? What could have been different if someone would have shared with me the belief system that I, you know, either self-taught or threw myself into and started reading Tony Robbins books and, you know, everything when I'm deciding to make these shifts in my life. But I didn't start doing that stuff till 30. What if I would have started doing that stuff at 12, 14, 15, even 10 years earlier, 5 years earlier than I did? So I think being that type of person, you know, having that talk with the 11-year-old Sebastian last night, he needed that because I watched him in the, you know, again, we've only been open 3 weeks, but I've seen him leave defeated twice. And I'm like, hey, man, you're better at this than you think you are. And martial arts will, there's not always victories in the actual, especially, and he's doing the jiu-jitsu program a lot. Well, in jiu-jitsu, when you're rolling, you're probably not going to win for about a couple of years. So you got to learn the techniques. But I told him, I said, you find the small victories. The fact that you've made it 3 times this week, that's a victory. The fact that you keep coming back, that's a victory. But you getting up in base is better. I've watched your kickboxing combination this week was better than it was last week. you're better at this stuff than you think you are, but you've also only been doing it for 3 weeks. So give yourself some room, man. So, but I think that to me, that most likely reflects that he feels that in other things too. And I asked him last night, I said, you play baseball. What's your favorite baseball team? We start talking about that. And then he'd tell me he's not even good at baseball. Right. So it's the same type of thing. And, that was, I am not who I think I am. I'm not who you think I am. I am who I think you think I am. I never had a coach tell me I loved baseball, but I was probably average at best. But nobody even gave me a kudos in baseball. But the karate instructor, when I go out in my very first tournament, I lost. And, the very first tournament, I got smoked. But my instructor came up to me and goes, I've never seen anybody have such a great lead kick on their very first tournament. Keep it up. So what do? I go back and I practice my lead kicks. And by the time I'm black belt, I'm winning matches just within 5 seconds. Boom, foots off the ground, bam, scores. I don't know if I had a good kick or not, but he made me think I did. It's the only person that ever told me I was pretty decent at something.
Isn't that amazing? Just the choice of words and the impact it has. And I know I'm plenty guilty of saying the wrong words at the wrong time many, many times. Growing up, the way we did Pour on the Farm, and, it was Johnny Cash had a song, A Boy Named Sue. I often thought it could have been a boy named Richie growing up on the farm because my dad's military dad, 101st Airborne, wounded quite severely over in Vietnam. And we never really connected. Now, I love him more than anything because I understand what he was trying to do then. Now, because the world ain't all sunshine and rainbows, he was going to toughen me up so the world wouldn't take advantage of me. And I mean, it is what it is. I've learned a lot. I wanted to definitely touch on a couple things. It's so fantastic. And our listeners here, we've mentioned John Kreese a couple times. John Kreese was the bad instructor in The Karate Kid. So those that he's the one that taught Johnny. So if you're playing catch up there, that's who he was.
Him and his brothers. I had a few of them.
Yeah. And that's how it was back then. I mean, it was unfortunately, and that was you had to, and that's the way the training was too. You had to be tough, and only the strong survived, and everybody else, well, just fend for themselves. Yes. Well, and we still got a few people in the industry that live by that motto, and I get a bit of their point. Yes, society, once again, when you're out on the street, you got to defend yourself and this and that. Well, the whole goal of the martial arts is to empower you to believe in yourself, and hopefully you learn the art of fighting so you never have to fight. But that all starts with that belief in yourself. And if you have that, you don't have that belief in yourself. So everybody, anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts and tendencies, and suicide is the second leading cause of death for ages 10 to 34. People need martial arts. They need empowerment. We don't just turn their back because they don't have a good lead lane front kick, or because they don't believe in themselves. Those are the people we need to empower. Now, with that being said, they got to do the work, but we have to convey the message to them in a way that makes them feel good about themselves. And I'm not saying pampering. Well, folks, listen, you know how I feel about that. I don't believe in everybody gets a trophy, everybody gets an A, everybody gets a free belt because mom and dad threw a fit. No, not at all. That's not what we believe in. But what we believe in is empowering the person to believe in themselves, because I never had that growing up. You have never had that growing up. And so many of us listening never had that growing up. But what can we do to make it better? Instead of saying, well, I had to go through the hard knocks. You're going through the hard knocks. Yeah, push them. But it doesn't have to be the same darn way. And I had Chip Townsend is a wonderful human being, and become a great personal friend over the years. And I'm a human being. I go through my peaks and valleys, my ups and downs. And a few weeks ago, I was going through a little bit, so I just zipped him a text, and we communicate regularly. I'm so blessed, and he's been on the podcast numerous times. And he sent me back he goes, here's my daily read today. And it was a Bible passage, but along with that, it was also kind of an interpretation of it. And it was all about, we never understand why we go through struggles, or why the first or part of our life was the way it is. But then he talked about the struggles of the past, or the struggles of even yesterday, are going to create the person you need to be for the challenges you're going to face tomorrow, or the experience you need. He said, and then the secondary part of that is, but oftentimes we get caught in what I call the proverbial round hole, that comfort zone, where, you know what, I got it all, everything's good, because I started thinking, man, what was I thinking leaving Illinois? Yeah, I love Florida. Yeah, I love this and that. But man, I knew I was kind of a local celebrity, man. I could go anywhere I want and people knew me, which was a big thing to my fragile ego. but it's just snuck back in there. But it's all about, no, you're going to make a bigger impact. You got to use what you've learned, but you got to be willing to step out. And I wrote it in my notes here about your risk, leaving $110,000-$20,000 job to teach karate classes. Heck, my parents for the longest time, and this is not a knock on them, it's just who they are. Richie, you still doing that karate stuff?
Right.
No, it's a business. I've actually got a business. I'm paying bills, and that was their whole thing, because it kind of be in the blue collar. You got to work hard digging ditches, and I worked construction for a number of years, and that was respectful, because and that's okay. I love them. I understand that, and I got a better relationship with them now than I've ever had in my life, which is good. But I had to understand who they were and come to that connection, and that kind of all revolves around what you learn, the experiences, and how you're going to apply that moving forward. And there are going to be risk involved. That and are you willing to take it? But not only willing to take the risk, but you willing to take the risk to help somebody who isn't the best kicker or who isn't the best student. I mean, attitude and effort are two only components that we evaluate our students on. Attitude and effort, because you got sometimes the most athletic kid on the planet, but the attitude's terrible and the effort is terrible, and that's we'll just simply say, hey, we're probably not the right fit for you, and we'll just say, we'll try and find a place that is. 10 years ago, I couldn't have done that because I needed students to pay the bills. Well, that's why I wasn't growing, because I had no idea. I was trying to be everything to everyone, ended up being nothing to no one. But attitude and effort. And I say the attitude is the intensity. I'm going to do my very best. And then the effort's actually applying it. The punches may be all over the place. The kicks may be all over the place, but the attitude is they're going to get better. And I said, I promise you, do your best. You're going to become your best. If you don't, you won't. It's flat out simple as that.
No, I agree. And then again, it's an amazing industry, and there's so many amazing opportunities, and yeah, and I mean that's what we're talking about.
And then how you apply that to everyday life. I always like to stress that, because a lot of the listeners, their only take on martial arts is maybe they saw an MMA fight, and I don't want my kid rolling around doing that. That reminds me of, and I know I'm sure you've shared it too. It's the picture. There's multiple pictures. What my family thinks I do, what the kids think I do, what this and what I really do, and you're down there on your knee helping a little 5-year-old learn how to make a fist and throw a punch, or doing an X block defense or whatever.
Absolutely, yeah.
And Kevin says hello to everybody. Thank you for tuning in, buddy. Appreciate you. Well, good stuff, man. Gosh darn. If there's something I always like to just kind of roll with the punches here. I usually don't have things scripted out, but I always like writing notes. Oh, this is one of the first notes I wrote here, and this is kind of going back. You mentioned about the somebody attacking in the playground and the downward block not working, or it's like, how in the world is this going to work?
Yeah.
I can't believe you said that. So I wrote down low defense. I remember when I was first taking martial arts, going into 6th or 7th grade, whatever it was, and I don't. I'm showing kids because I'm a professional now after taking martial arts for 3 months, and what I'm doing. And I remember saying, somebody goes to punch you in the face, you do this block, and then you got the outside block, and then the punch, and then you got, what? I'm not even sure what that's for. The low defense.
Yeah.
So don't worry about that. Even though for 6 months I've done that in every single class, I don't know what the heck it's for. Now, obviously, we know now it's a defense, a counter motion, and a strike, and it can be used for a throw and everything else. But as a 10, 11-year-old a kid, or 9, or however heck old it was at the time there, it was like, that stuff ain't working. What the heck are we doing here? But so where we've evolved now with our martial arts academy is, we'll still teach the concept of that, but I try and teach, and that's just who we are. Anything that I've ever seen on a playground, and outside in a parking lot or a barroom setting or whatever, practical self-defense to defend yourself. And then the longer we work on that, because I don't know if a student's going to be with us a month or 15, 20 years, but I want to make sure within that first few weeks or a month, they've got something tangible, one, belief in themselves. And of course, there's nothing that destroys confidence than teaching something that doesn't work. Oh my gosh, then I'm not going to jump into that. But, that's another reason we don't give belts away, because you give a kid a black belt in, a year or two or whatever that they haven't earned, they're going to get out there and get pulverized. And you talk about their self-confidence being destroyed. To me, that's a form of bullying. Giving a kid an A they didn't work for, that's not helping. That's hurting.
Yes. No, I agree. 100%.
So the low block thing, I had to bring that up because it's like, my gosh, Now this is for this for this, and you know what? I'm not sure what that's for.
Yeah, exactly right. I don't know what that's doing.
Good stuff. Well, and I usually do this up front, but we've had such a great conversation. Everybody loves hearing their name on the air, so please give a shout out to your wife and 3 kids, and because everybody loves hearing their name on the air there.
I'm sorry.
Oh, we had a little gap there. I said
Yeah.
everybody loves hearing their name on the air, so please give a shout out to your wife and 3 kids there.
Yeah, so to my wife, Amy, who's actually, I think she's putting our patio furniture together while I'm in here doing this. And then Jaden, and Gianna.
Jaden and Gianna and Amy, the housemaker there. And Hanshi just moved in, folks, just tuning in to a new house in Florida here. And he was kind enough to step away so he didn't have to put the furniture together. Now it all comes to fruition. Now I understand what's going on here. I thought he was just wanting a break, but now I know his wife was putting the furniture together.
My uncle taught me a long time ago, kid, you have an advantage, you don't use it, you don't have an advantage.
Well, folks, if you got nothing else from the show, write that down. Good stuff. So tell us about the Martial Arts Academy real quick, where it's located, and how people in the Tampa area can connect with you.
Hopefully this is number 1 of 3 is the plan. I shouldn't even say hopefully, it is. It's number 1 of 3. We are on 8610 Citrus Park Drive in Tampa. So we're right off the toll road. That's what is it, 570 or 579? I don't even know. I'm sorry.
I haven't figured it out yet. I'm still trying to learn exits.
Yeah, I was just bragging to somebody, one of the neighbors. I said, listen, 2 months ago, I was able to drive within 5 miles of my house without a GPS. And I said, that was a big day for me. So
I just drove to the ice rink. My son plays hockey, so I've been driving there the last few months without the GPS. But that's about it. That's why I'm learning exits. What exit is this? What exit?
It's a little bit different than Illinois, right?
Yes, it is. You're living there 50-something years.
So yeah, right. Citrus Park Drive. Everybody's welcome. Our website is TampaMartialArts.com. So very easy. Yeah.
Very easy. TampaMartialArts.com. Fantastic. And up at the schools in Illinois, because that's where we're from there. So give a shout out to them and how.
The schools are doing amazing. It's and I know with Hanshi Kovar, I was part of that, and I consider him a mentor, and I've had other people say, Illinois is running really well. It's interesting because the newest school that we started, if I go out there, it's like some of the parents don't even know who I am, and they don't even care I'm in the building. The ones in Springfield, especially the ones that have been there for a long time, they're always like, hey, when's he coming back? When's he going to be here? But the staff up there, Rick Christie, Sensei Rinchi, Zach Heck, Mason Christie, Sensei Mason, Sensei Austin. I have one of the instructors that just brought down Tuesday that's new. I needed the help here, but we're also doing like a boot camp for him to kind of push him through too, but he's helping me here. So they're doing all well. So that's up in Springfield, Illinois, 1929 West Isles in Springfield. And then we were over in Rochester, Rochester, Illinois, 304 South Walnut. So the schools are doing well up there. The staff is doing amazing. They're doing how do I want to say it? I remember one guy saying, you might find out your schools do better once you get out of the way. And, it's they're doing great. And I think that's a worry that we all have, right? But there was that legacy that's planting that seed early on and having the systems in place for them to do that. And they continue to do that. And, we continue. I'm not completely, we do an hour and a half Zoom meeting on Monday on curriculum and lessons. And then on Wednesday, we do over operations and calendar planning and stuff. So we're still involved, but they do great. They do amazing. So.
Right, and that's having those systems in place. And as you mentioned, it was, well, gosh darn, 2012 before I knew I could read, because I chose not to read, and that's when I was first introduced to Zig Ziglar. Had actually passed away, but I was listening to a webinar. Melody Johnson now had. I was watching the first webinar I ever watched, and she kept bringing up the Zig Ziglar guy. I'm like, holy cow, who is this? I got to check it out. And that led to another thing, and time went by. But then 2015 is when I really had the big mindset shift, and My wife actually quit her nursing job in 2014, took over all the financials, all the business aspects, and built the systems because I was kind of one-man band, and that's what
Sure.
really led to that. So those listening, entrepreneurs out there in the martial arts industry and the other industry, you've got to have the system, structures, and processes in place, and they got to be. A great book is The Entrepreneurial Myth, The E-Myth by Michael Gerber, and it talks about having those in there. Therefore, you're not working in your business. I'm sorry, you're not working, in your business. You're working on your business, because when you're in it doing absolutely everything, the walls are closing in. And by stepping off the mat, which I had, it was either Hanshi Kovar or Professor Brandon Beliso would mention, look, you got to step off the mat. You can't keep teaching every class, or you're never going to be able to grow your team. And that was so foreign to me. I never heard of it before, but that's what led to that. And I tell you, and I'm just being humble here, especially our martial arts friends listening, the ego gets in the way. And our number one black belt principle now is humility, and humility is keep an open mind, always willing to learn, because I needed to learn that myself in order to, there's a lot to learn. And then, you know what? Others can teach the class just as well if you give them the opportunity.
Sure. No, absolutely. It's in Hanshi Kovar, it was kind of almost a one-on-one moment in a hallway. And he goes, I know you work out, you do all this, I watch you. And he asked me, and I can't remember how he said it, and if he actually said this part in this moment or not, or if it was previously said, why don't you have multiple schools? Because all the men that I know, you should have that. And I go, right now I like teaching. I still like being there. I still like being involved. And I said, the mega school just works for me, because at one point we had 725 members in the academy. But we've always been that 450 to 700. And it just works for me. I like being hands-on. I like doing what I'm doing. And he said, how many classes do you teach a week? And I said, only like 20. And he's like, do me a favor. I'm going to challenge you. Gently challenge you to teach 10 and take the other 10 hours or whatever that time is and train your staff to be able to do what you do. And that was my biggest shift, because it was like either I was ready at that moment to hear that, or he said it in a way where I didn't have to no, this is what I left. I told a consultant, I had a consultant call me out in a room in front of people. Look, John Geyston, you're not as successful as you think you are, because you still got to do everything. I said, I don't have to do everything. I choose to do a lot of things. And I said, listen, most of you in this room are running schools because you didn't want a job. I left a six-figure thing in '96 to do this. I already retired. I'm in retirement as far as I'm concerned. That's my mindset. So I said, I love what I'm doing. And I always felt like I had to put my guard up because I was still involved. And I think that's, I say that to everybody too. It's like, what do you want to do? And, for me, the time was, I was ready for Hanshi Kovar as he gently put his hand on my shoulder, and it's just he and I in the hallway, to hear that. And, that allows me to be where I'm at today. That was the pivot point. Wow. So it's always, again, I'm not who I think I am. I'm not who you think I am. I am who I think you think I am. And this guy thinks I need to be running multiple schools. And he knows.
Well, oftentimes people can see in us what we cannot see in ourselves, good or bad. And but they're willing to take the time, and that's kind of wrapping things up here. I think a great takeaway for everybody is that if you see something in someone, don't hold out. Say it. Not say it in a polite way, in a helpful way, but you have no idea. Just like at the time there, Hanshi Kovar did not have to take the time because he's a busy man
Right.
of just saying, hey, to you. Well, he spent many hours talking to me in a similar manner. Yes. And, I trained over in Korea. I've been blessed to be over there 4 different times and train with some of the best in the world, which I'm honored beyond words. But they had a philosophy, and the philosophy is time is the most valuable commodity. If we don't correct you, we don't take the time to stop and talk to you to help you, then you're not worth our time. So, because I was like, man, why am I always getting picked on here? It seems like, I had that well, why is my technique never good enough? And well, I finally, I don't know what it was. We were having sake or something at 2 a.m, and they just said, "We admire your Mudo. Mudo's martial arts discipline and spirit, and that's why we spend time with you." And I'm like, oh, and that was short, sweet, and to the point, and it really rang the bell because I'm thinking, man, And of course, sometimes you're in there and we do the worst thing. We compare what we're doing with somebody else. Obviously, we now have no idea what battle they're fighting or what limitations they have. But it's like, man, I'm here, first one here, last one to leave. I'm working my butt off. And I was in my early 20s then and mid 30s. Like, why are they freaking picking on me? That was a horrible mindset, but that's just what I saw. And when he said that, I'm like, oh, yeah. So of course, me is like, all right, well, thank you. That's what I needed to hear. Of course, why didn't you tell me that? It's playing in my head. Well, nowadays, they shouldn't have to tell you that. You should be able to see that, but sometimes you can't see what you don't know. And by having a mentor, just like you had mentioned, Hanshi Kovar saying that to you, and folks listening, you've got the opportunity to share something with someone else just to help them, because we have no idea what battles others are fighting.
Amen to that.
Man, oh man. So one last takeaway, as if there wasn't so many golden nuggets in this whole live stream here. And I'm so very grateful and thankful for your time. And maybe you can get on the tail end of fixing that, putting the furniture together with your wife. But one last takeaway you want to leave with somebody, just some golden gem that maybe you wish someone would have said to you.
Wow.
Man, I mean, we've covered so much.
Yeah, there's so many. Gosh, there would be so many. I think if anything, it just comes back. Just try to be that, and man, just try to be that person for. You don't know what everybody's doing. And I think I think for me, it really sums it up for me is I'm trying to be that person that I needed when I was growing up, and there was a huge void for me, like huge from 4 to 19. I was still lost on who I wanted to be and. Who the family and all that was. So,
Just think how differently your life would have been if that void was filled by maybe not the most pleasant or somebody that really empowered you. And I say that because folks listening, you can be the voice to help somebody. And if you're not, they're going to find something. When we're all struggling, we're grabbing for straws. And oftentimes in a young age, they grab the wrong dong straw or the wrong group of influences.
Yes. And I definitely was. I don't want to say I was in. I might have been the wrong influence from some of my friends, because I was battling me. It was I was battling me. I was battling being lost, and I was joking about this because here I am. 52 years ago. Still, there's 3 of my real dear friends back that I went to high school with. We still get together and we don't miss a beat. It's like we have not missed a beat. The reality of it is I haven't seen most of the guys since I was 23, and. I'm and there's one mom that still doesn't talk to me because she remembers the 17, 16, 17-year-old me. And I want to say, hey, I've done a lot of good things since then. But, and again, it is that. It's, I was just battling me. I was battling me. And I would have, I always ask myself, if that didn't happen, would you want to teach this program out here? Who knows where my path would have ended up. So anything that I've done since then, even if it's not been the martial arts, has been based on what the martial arts taught me, and the confidence, the perseverance, the tenacity, the stick to it. That's anything I've done outside of that. The career that I walked away and making $100,000 in 1996, that was John, the martial artist, just applying it in labor in another field. So
fantastic.
I don't know if there's one, but just I live off that rule, and I think if all of us, we don't know, and you just said it, we don't know what nobody knew what my battle was, and it's easy to just say, man, who is this punk? Who's this guy who's doing what he's doing and doing doing these things that just ornery teenagers do, but I just did it a lot, right? And it's instead I was fighting me. And, rather than judging me, maybe like, hey, man, get your head out of your backside and, you need to straighten up. So it definitely led that way. So I think that's why I live by that. I try to that I just want to be that person for somebody else, because there's so many people out there struggling in their own little battles today. And if anything, I'm at fault the opposite. I'll help people that you just can't help because they don't want to help themselves, but I'm still trying. So anyway, I appreciate it. There was a lot of, I love always listening to you and follow you, and Some of the things you said today, I'm making notes myself. I'm like, I like that terminology. I like that mindset. So thank you.
Well, thank you, sir. And listeners and followers, thank you as always. And make sure you mention it, subscribe, smack that bell on YouTube, and then plug for the book. We announced the launch date. The launch date is April 26th for Becoming Bully Proof. And I posted a little bit on that on our Facebook page, Instagram, and those channels, Grogan's Bully Proof and Kickin'Life. Check those out and see what the book cover looks like. And then dive on in. We're going to be posting more and more information on that. We want to have a big book launch, and hopefully we can drive that baby to become a bestseller. It's a nice little title to have, but the most important reason is if we can get this information in the hands of the kids that need it the most. As I mentioned, suicide is the second leading cause of death for ages 10 to 34, and the number one contributor to that is lack of lack of hope, self-esteem, self-confidence, and belief in themselves, and that leads when people are out of hope, they don't feel there's another option. So let's get that out there the best we can, share it with friends and families and everyone, because there's nothing more disheartening than anybody taking their own life. But a child, a teenager who's got their life ahead of them, oh my gosh, it's crippling, and bullying can never be stopped because it's been around since Cain and Abel. But we can empower kids to believe in themselves, to make a better choice, to be an impact for others, and we all have the opportunity to be the hero. Just like Hanshi had mentioned countless times there of what he's done and the risk he's taken walking away from the job, but then also, what he does now in regards to being who he never had, and that's right in line with the book. The younger me or the older me is teaching the younger me everything I wish I would have known, because I was questing and looking for that. And oftentimes I grabbed on the wrong branch there. I surrounded myself with the wrong group of people, which never leads to the right choice. So be that for someone, and I promise you it'll come back tenfold. And man, you'll feel good about yourself knowing that you've been a positive impact in the lives of others. Well, folks, I love you. God loves you. Hanshi loves you. Please, I beg you, get out there and share that love of the world. And until we talk again, you get out there and do your best, and I promise you'll become your very best. You'll become bully proof. Yeah. And you'll live your best kick in life. God bless you. God bless your loved ones. Can't wait to read your comments. Can't wait to chat with you again real soon. Have a blessed day, everybody. Bye-bye. Thank you, sir.